What is it about black men, though, especially because there's a sizable chunk of us who are leaning Trump? Some say it's because of machismo, it's disaffection. Why so many brothers who find something appealing about Trump?
I think a lot of it is machismo. I think a lot of it is he plays that swagger. And I think some of them were alienated. And I think that it was wrong alienation. But I kept telling a lot of the sisters, don't just talk about black women magic, talk about black men magic. You got to balance this out. Am I right?
I have to tell you one thing. I don't always agree with Al Sharpton, but I have to agree with Al in his comments referring to how black men feel about the Democratic Party and all the emphasis that the Democratic Party has placed on black women. So recently I came across this video where Al Sharpton, Benjamin Crump, and Benny the Butcher were talking about the upcoming election. The name of the special is called Black Men, The Road to 2024. So let's listen in to see what Al Sharpton and Benny the Butcher had to say about black men, black women, Trump, and the Democratic Party.
You know where I'm going. You caught a lot of heat about saying that you would support Trump. Do you still feel that way?
This is what I'm gonna say. I learned a lot of that day, but honestly, that just come from frustration about, things not being right in my community.
Okay.
And wanting to try it a different way. You know what I'm saying? But what I learned, I'm not a political person. I'm just boots on the ground in the city every day. And it's like, there's very few changes that reach down and trickle down in our community.
It's because they don't want changes to come down in the community. Like I say over and over and over again, in order for the Democrats to retain power, in order for the black bougie elite to maintain their position, you have to make sure that the status quo remains the status quo. That means black people remaining in substandard conditions and not fully realizing the opportunities that are available to them. As a matter of fact, they suppress opportunities available for them because they don't want them to elevate, they don't want them to flourish.
I got a lot of flack back from that, but when I realized this, I did realize a lot of black people voted Trump. They just don't put it out there like I did.
That's the facts. A lot of black people will vote for Trump, but they will not put it out there because of a number of reasons. A lot of black men will vote for Trump, but they will not broadcast it. They will not televise it, essentially. They will not announce it to the masses because they understand the blowback. Because if you say you vote for Trump in the black community, there still is a stigma behind it. There still is a hesitancy for a lot of people, especially black men, to say that. But a lot of black folks, in particular black men, will vote for Trump in this upcoming election, but they will not tell their relatives, they will not even tell their wives about it.
I haven't voted since Obama. You feel what I'm saying? I don't think anything driven me to go to the polls.
I want you to always be honest, man, because the one thing I believe is that you gotta get to the streets. If they want us to be motivated to come out and vote, we gotta make sure people know what the administration is doing. And I think the administration is doing a lot.
Here we go. Benjamin Crump, who is a surrogate for the Democratic Party, is going to give the boilerplate talking points of what Joe Biden and the administration has done. But has that really affected the lives of the people on the streets, of the lives of the people in the communities? No, it has not.
They just ain't messaged it right to the neighborhood in our community.
Look at Al. Al's ready to jump in.
Man, Trump and them, you gotta give them a little credit for this. They do go give their base red meat.
What is it about black men, though, especially because there's a sizable chunk of us who are leaning Trump? Some say it's because of machismo, it's disaffection. Why so many brothers who find something appealing about Trump?
I think a lot of it is machismo. I think a lot of it is he plays that swagger. And I think some of them were alienated.
Now, here's where I will agree with Reverend Al. Reverend Al is keeping it real with his upcoming comment. Just listen in to Reverend Al.
And I think that it was wrong alienation, but I kept telling a lot of the sisters, don't just talk about black women magic, talk about black men magic. You got to balance this out. Am I right?
You're 100% right, Reverend Al. Bravo, Reverend Al. He finally had a salient moment. He finally had a moment of clarity where he spoke the truth. What has happened is that the Democratic Party realized a strategy. They realize that they can put a wedge between the black man and the black woman. They can move the black man aside. They can come in, fill that gap. They can elevate the black woman. They can push all these agenda items, child care tax credit, elevation of black women in all these offices. Why do you think Joe Biden always talks about all the black women he's put into judicial positions and all the black women he has working for him? They can push all of these things that denigrates the family, that denigrates black men, but elevates black women. They keep constantly pushing that, and eventually that's going to make black men mad. And so it has done two things. It has pushed black men away from the political process. It has pushed black men away from the family. And so therefore, when you have somebody like Trump that is coming in, that's an alternative, that is a businessman, that tried to do his best to elevate black men in his last administration, black men will listen to that message. And the problem with Trump has to make sure that he stays on that message and does not get caught up in all the fluff about seeing. Another thing too, we have to stop seeing black folks as just criminals. It seems like every time somebody talks about a policy for black people, they're always talking about criminality, always talking about criminal justice reform. Black people are not majority criminals, okay? The majority of black folks are not criminals. So stop pushing this narrative. The majority of black people love God, love their family, love their country. They're not criminals. So talking about criminal justice reform and those things, while that may appeal to the fringe of the black community, talk about how you're going to increase the wealth in the black community. Talk about how you're going to bridge the wealth gap. Talk about how you're going to bring families together. Talk about how you can provide economic and educational opportunities for black families. That's a winning message. That's a winning tone that can be set if Trump uses that.
You're 100% right, man. And me, it's just like not being versed politically, just knowing what I know. It's like, Trump wears who he is in front of us.
Right.
It was disappointing, maybe being behind Biden and then coming out and figuring out his stance from previous years. So it's like, we thought this guy was a different guy. We like to take people face value. We like to see who people are when they stand in front of us. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not easy to tell who people are.
You know what it is? Because the Democrats don't want black people to flourish. They don't. Joe Biden is hiding. That's why he said, if you don't know to vote for me over Trump, you ain't black.
Long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
That's exactly what they think. Democrats have a racist view towards black people. They see black people as less than them. Therefore, they treat them like children, like they can't think for themselves, like they do not have their own agency. And so therefore, Joe Biden will not be authentic. He will not tell you what he really thinks about black people, whereas Trump is authentic. Sometimes he can be authentically wrong, but at least he's authentic. And that is appealing to a majority of people in the black community, especially black men. Black people, by and large, are tired of being told that we are victims. We are not victims. We have agency. We've been blessed by God in this country. We just want to have a even playing field when it comes to opportunity, when it comes to the flourishing that we all want to experience here in America. That's what we want. We don't want handouts. We don't want people to come alongside and pat us on the head and tell us things every 2 to 4 years, but never follow up on that. That is over. Those days are done. And it's good to see that Reverend Al recognizes how the Democratic Party has elevated the black woman at the expense of the black man.